When you see people like Ted Cruz getting chased out of restaurants by a mob.
Oh, you're not going to use the mob word
Oh,
here.
it's totally a mob. It is without a doubt. I mean, there's no other word for it. It's a go watch. Put up the video.
Mob,
of Ted.
Stop.
Put up the video.
A mob is what we saw in Charlottesville, Virginia, 2 Augusts ago.
No,
a mob is not what we saw chasing. I'm not saying what they did was right.
What about the people who were at the Supreme Court banging on the walls? What do you call that? Civil protest? Or is that a mob? I think it's easily a mob.
Yeah, and if it were Tea Partiers, we'd call it a mob for sure. Come on, let's be serious.
Let me move past the M word, because I do feel like that is part of the weaponization.
Oh man, the M word. So now it's that is just, isn't this just classic? By the way, that is everything about the mainstream media, the Democrats, the left. That's how they operate. It's like that. Like he is making the most coherent, irrefutable argument you could imagine. And what does she do? She puts her hands she puts her head in her hands, and she goes like, "Oh, we're not going to use the M word here." Isn't that just everything about the left and how they argue? It's like nothing to combat your point. No way to really deal with the argument you're putting forward. It's just kind of like, "Oh, I'm outraged. Oh, you're so ridiculous. Oh, the M word, the M word." Mob is the N word now? Is the M word now? I mean, it's really it's surreal to me. Well, and she even goes like, "No, Charlottesville, that's a mob." In other words, it's only if you can associate it with the right wing. That's the only time it can be a mob.
You know what? I'm going to say something a little bit out there. I think CNN understands propaganda really well.
Yeah.
And part of their plan is the repetition of words and trying to get it into people's minds. Russia collusion, Russia collusion, Russia collusion. So they know, hey, we can't even put it out there like as an option to describe what the Democrats are doing as mob behavior.
No, I think you're absolutely right. And there's also something. And look, we were talking about this when we were talking about that clip from the left-wing podcast the other week, that Chapo Trap House guys, where it's a lot of the tactic is like just mockery. You mock someone if they say that. And that does let a lot of other people, you know, we're like pack animals and we respond to social cues like that. So if you just kind of mock someone for having this opinion, it does frighten others out of it. And then there's what you were saying, the repetition. It's like if you repeat a lie often enough, it becomes a truth, that old thing. And yeah, it's like really a mob. This is ridiculous. And he's sitting there going, he goes, well, I mean, they chased someone out of a restaurant. They're banging on the Supreme Court doors. Like they're breaking over police barricades and banging on government building doors. Like, what else would you call that? How can you not call it a mob? And I got to say, Mary Kate or whatever her name, I'm blanking on her name, but she said it really perfectly, which I thought was just the perfect little thing to get in. These like cable news appearances are tricky because there's such a short amount of time and you got to just get daggers in. You got to get one point that really sticks. But what she said was perfect. And she said, if the Tea Party did this, we'd be calling it a mob. Come on. And that's absolutely right. If anybody on the right wing, if there was ever can you imagine if Hillary Clinton had won and Trump supporters were knocking over police barricades and banging on the Supreme Court doors? Can you imagine? You think they would hesitate to use the M word? I'm pretty sure the M word would be used quite quickly. And this is an interesting dynamic that's been going on now for a couple years. And I gotta say, the place we're at in 2018 with the internet and what I guess you could call broadly the alternative media, the alt news, you know, like where you can get your news from, like as simple a thing as that. If there's like a big protest going on, you see live video of it on your Facebook page. You'll literally just be scrolling down your Facebook page and all of a sudden there'll be a Facebook live video, live coverage of this protest, live coverage of Antifa violence, right? Now, when Antifa takes over a street in Portland, like they did the other week, I didn't see that in cable news. I didn't read about that on a newspaper, but it's all over the internet and everyone walks around with a camera on them now. So we just get it. You can't pretend this shit isn't happening. You know what I mean? Now, if we didn't have this stuff, if we didn't have everybody walking around with cameras and social media and the internet where we can share all this stuff, I got to say, I, as much as anyone else, may not be aware that this is going on. But according to CNN, it's like, no. There's no mobs on the left. It's just the alt-right guys, just Charlottesville. Remember that one incident? I remember, Rob, me and you were talking about this right after Charlottesville. And we were talking about actually watching the footage of Charlottesville. And it's like, look, we're a couple of Jewish libertarians. We're not really like, oh yeah, I'm on board with these guys who hate Jews. Not really our cup of tea. But I remember you said something to me that kind of stuck out to me. I still remember the way you said it. And you were like, and I had just been watching a lot of the footage and I was kind of appalled by a lot of it as well. And you were talking about that scene where the cops turned those, like, I don't know, it looked like maybe 50 white nationalists, alt-right guys, and they turned them into that crowd of hundreds of Antifa and made them walk back through there. And these guys are just getting fucked up left and right by the Antifa guys. And I remember you said to me, you go, Jesus Christ, like, they're still people. You know?
Yeah, I think I said I never thought I'd have sympathy for a bunch of Nazis or something along those lines.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it was rough to watch.
But you're like, look, man, it's your police, your law enforcement. You have these barricades up. You could so easily just open one of these barricades and be like, you guys walk out this way, they're over there. But they send them right back into that group. And you would never, if it wasn't for like Facebook Live and like these type of videos online, you would never know this. If me and you just had to rely on the mainstream media, we would never know that that was the story at all of what happened in Charlottesville. Now, look, you want to call those guys in Charlottesville a mob? I mean, look, it definitely degenerated into mob type shit, and there was violence there all around. And one guy did fucking kill a chick with his car and hit a few other people with the car. By the way, that guy is arrested, tried. Like, it's not as if this guy just gets off and nothing happens about it. Like, you know, there was also maximum outrage for this event. It's not as if this event happened and, like, you know, you have a bunch of politicians covering up for it. Donald Trump even, I mean, they make it out like he said the worst thing ever, but he basically said, like, there were bad people on both sides, there were good people on both sides, the violence is terrible. Like, he did like, if you actually look at it, he did repudiate the violence, and then he came back a week later and did it even stronger just to make it clear that that's what he was saying. But every politician pretty much, that you didn't see like a bunch of Republicans in response to that saying what Hillary Clinton just said, being like, well, we can't have civility until we have more political power or something like that. So it's like, no, only that's a mob.